So, for those of you that don't know, that's my daughter Jasmine. Jasmine, when I first came to this idea of maybe I should volunteer to work for these crazy people in CEA. Yes, I was emphasizing you, Cameron. Jasmine was in a real dark place. And I think this happens to a lot of kids. They're in a dark place. You just heard it out of her mouth that she didn't know how to find things in the Bible and so on. I've been a children's pastor for 25 years. It's not that she hasn't gotten the idea externally, but something happened in her heart. And that was what the change was. Yes. And yes, Julie had a huge part in that. It's the Lord, right? One waters, another sows. It's the other way around. Sows and waters. But it's the Lord that brings the increase, right? So that's what happened in my daughter's life. This is what we see happening in children's lives over and over and over, right? So, Julie, you have been an integral part to this ministry in this area. And it's a huge impact. I can see that, and I've only been in this for not even a year yet. So, that's no small thing, right? How many counties are we in? Seven counties? 2 of them in Washington. So that's a big deal. And Julie, I think that you are a major part of that, right? As far as making that growth happen, right? So with that, there's more story to tell, okay? And so we're going to share something with you. Oh, I gotta ask this question. Did everybody sign the poster out in the back? Is there anybody who has not yet? Everybody.
You haven't signed it, John?
I was the first one.
You raised your hand up. Are you mine?
Where is her buzzer when we need one? Be quiet.
John, are you sure that's not how it works?
I have already officially called her a brat. Okay? All right. Are we ready?
By the way, Karen, that just means yours is bigger.
Okay. So who's up first? Cameron.
Okay, so if I asked you what your best friend's favorite color was, what would you say? Liberty.
Red.
7. A rainbow. That's my genius brother. Now, if I asked you what Aivie's favorite color was, what would you say? I'm looking at you.
I don't know. Blue?
No one knows. Okay. So, today, in honor of Missionary Star, we're going to talk about someone who always encouraged knowing others that you didn't know, like their favorite color. And that was someone who was born a very, 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 very long time ago. And her name was Julie. She's basically dead now. She's retiring. She's dead to me. Now, Julie was born into the Poland family. I hope I'm saying that right. And she loved her family. Her family told her that Jesus loved her. And that was very important. And you know what? Her dad, he was a funny guy. He danced jigs with them. He told them jokes. They all had fun time. Now, they went to church every Sunday, and then there again they told Julie that Jesus loved her. And Julie knew that her parents loved her too, but they made her do chores. Even before having to go to school. Now here would be my strategy. I just wanted to do the chores so I didn't have to go to school. But yeah, that wasn't a choice for Julie, unfortunately. Now, when Julie was 7 years old, she accepted Jesus as her Savior. And everybody was so happy for Julie. Now, there was one day that Julie didn't have to do any chores. And that was when she got the chicken pox. Now, I have heard the legend that on this day, Julie had a little bell that she would bring for her mother. And her mother would bring chicken and rice, Coke, and even ice cream, which doesn't seem to be a very sick diet, but okay. Now, after Julie had the chicken pox, she made a friend, and that friend was named Donna Fritz. And Donna and Julie, they had fun together. I bet they told each other all their secrets, so we'll be talking to Donna later. And they climbed trees together, and they just had so much fun. Now, as Julie got older, she started hanging out with another Fritz. I don't know why, but that Fritz's name was David Fritz. Now, I've been told that David was a quiet and smart man who also accepted Jesus as a Savior. And I even had stories about when God saved David's life in the Vietnam War. Then, you guys, I have really good news for you. David and Julie, they got married! And one died. And so, they got married, and a few years later, they had children. Now, their kids' names, I really hope I get these right, was Stephen, Matthew, and John. The first three. That was 3 boys. And then in 1980, I know, very archaic.
Wow.
They moved all the way from Virginia to Oregon. And they had 2 little girls, Betsy and Susie. Now, when Betsy and Susie were all growing up, and the boys too, Julie helped around. She would raise her kids, and she would do things like helping out at the church, or even cleaning up kids' messes at the school. She would maybe use a mop. Can you guys use a mop with me? Julie, you're not mopping! Now, even though Julie did not mop, that's not important to the story, I guess. When Betsy and Susie were growing up, well, not grown up, they were teenagers, which I think is very grown up, but Betsy found something called CYIA, Christian Youth in Action, and she loved it, and that's because it was telling children about Jesus, and she loved doing that. And Julie was very proud of Betsy. And then later, of course, Susie did it too. And then Julie was even more proud, and she met somebody through them named Judy. I'm gonna mix these names up. Judy taught them about telling people about Jesus, especially children. And Julie wanted to do that too, but she just wasn't sure how yet. Then later, Julie became the secretary of the committee. Now, a committee is somebody who sits in like a circle and they make very important decisions. Can you guys pretend you're making very important decisions with me? Now, as you made important decisions, that's what Julie did for a long time. For a while, she was a secretary, or just somebody who writes stuff down, what happens, so next time they can be like, hey, who made that funny joke? Julie knows. Then, Julie became the chairwoman, and that was like the important person. And then, something bad happened. Judy said she was retiring, which is very rude to do. But Judy was retiring! And Julie was like, oh my gosh, who's gonna replace Judy? Oh my gosh! And like, who would be like Judy? They would have to be smart, and they would have to know how to talk to kids and teenagers. And that's a skill in itself. But Julie didn't know what to do. And, alright, well, you don't get to know until tomorrow either, so bye.
So, thankfully, Judy, when she was retiring, she asked Julie to become director. Okay, now Julie was not very confident about that because she was like, Judy, you are out of your mind. I cannot teach. I cannot do what you do. Guys, do you think Julie can do what Judy did? Yeah! And did she do what Judy did? Yeah, that's right. He did what Judy did. Maybe even better. Anyways, I didn't know how to get. Anyways, so Julie did not believe that Judy was right, and that Julie thought that she could never be director. But Judy insisted, and she kept on insisting, and even though she was insisting, she also told Julie to pray, because, obviously, you can't make a decision without God. It's not something you can do. So Julie prayed, and she prayed, and she prayed, and God gave her an answer. And that answer was yes. So God told Julie that she was going to become the director of Mid-Columbia. By the way, Mid-Columbia is what Judy was in charge of. Yeah, so Julie was going to become the director of Mid-Columbia. And I know, I'm sorry. Home memory Kim was way better than me. Anyways, so Julie was going to become the director of Mid-Columbia. And when she does that, it has to do with a lot of different responsibilities. And she can't do all that without somebody, So Julie was getting super overwhelmed because she was going to all these meetings. She was meeting all these amazing people that also told kids about God. And, she was getting kind of overwhelmed. And she didn't think that she could do this on her own, And she thought, who can help me with this overwhelming of information and responsibility? She thought, God, of course. So she prayed and prayed and prayed. And Julie got really good at telling people or asking people to pray for her, okay? So Julie went around to all these churches, and first she went to Grass Valley, which was her home church, and she asked them all to pray for her. And one person really helped Julie, or one person really prayed for Julie and helped Julie in praying, and that was her husband, David. Okay, so Julie, she kept on praying, and because she could not do all those things on her own, okay, she really needed God's help through becoming the director. And that year that Judy had asked Julie to become the director, there was pre-training. Okay, now pre-training is a week in April or in the spring, where you get a bunch of teenagers together, okay, from Mid-Columbia, and you would go to a place called Camp Mora, and you'd be there for a weekend, and it basically just teaches kids how to teach a single book. Now this book didn't have any words in it. Actually, while we're in the colors, it didn't have any words in it, and didn't have any pictures. Okay, so it's completely colors. And it was brought up earlier. It was gold, black, red, white, and red. Green. Sorry. I'm going to point you right now. So usually when Julie would go to these pre-training, she would be a cook. But Julie was not a cook this time. Julie was going and she was observing Judy as she was the director of Mid-Columbia. So she was going around and she was observing Judy doing all these really cool things, teaching all these kids. And she also got to listen to these kids practicing their wordless book, and that's what the colored book was called. And these kids' names were Truman Rose, Jason Earl, and three Monroes? Yeah. It was three. Jason was in Monroe. Jason was in Monroe.
Jason and Earl.
There's
Whoa.
4 people right now.
It was 4 now?
No, there's 4 kids.
There's 4 kids, yeah. Everybody knows. Okay, so it was Clement, Curtis, Jason, and Karis. It wasn't Karis.
Yes. No.
It's Stinson. Jessica Stinson.
No.
Jessica Stinson. David!
So many. 2009.
Okay.
That's fun.
Anyways, so she met all these incredible people, okay, and she got to know these kids basically like they were her family, as you do in CYA. So Julie, after pre-training, you don't just end CYA and you're done until next year pre-training. Okay, after pre-training, there's the summer, June, in the middle of June, there's state training. Okay, now state training is not just a weekend, it's an entire week where kids are put to hard labor in the mines. They're taught, they teach you how to dig, that's what happens. So, kids are taught how to teach 5-day clubs. Now 5-day clubs, or like VDSs, are, as it says in the name, are 5 days of kids coming to usually a church, sometimes a park or like an apartment complex, and they would go there and they would learn about Jesus and what they did for them. Okay? And, sorry, I feel very dry. And these kids that would go, these teenagers that went to 5-day club, they wouldn't just learn how to teach kids 5-day clubs. Of course, that was the main purpose of it. But they would also do these huge group events, and kids loved, being in their cabins and growing these friendships that would last for forever. In all honesty, like I don't think my ties are going to be separated with any of these people, and that's up to them to decide if that's a good or bad thing. So. Thanks. So, after that, Julie became the director, of course. And a couple years passed, I'm not sure how many, and, sorry. I'm fine. I'm sure you already talked enough. It's okay. After the summer of CYA, so after they taught all these 5-day clubs, after state training, kids in the districts would go back and teach all over their districts. So like, Julie's kids would go all over Mid-Columbia and teach all these kids 5-day clubs. So after Julie was director, back to where we were before, she would take her kids after the summer, after all the teaching, she would take her kids to a cabin in Hood River. Was it Hood River? Hood River, I'm confident. It was Hood River. So she would take the kids to Hood River, okay? And now Hood. Sorry, Julie. I'm very sorry. I'm probably saying it wrong. It's okay. So she would take her kids to a cabin in Mount Hood, okay? And this would just be like a weekend trip, of course. And they would have lots and lots of fun, okay? So one year, someone named Jason, okay? Now, Jason became an intern after, you know what happened after Julie became director and everything? People moved away. A family, a part of the Mid-Columbia crew moved away, and that was the Monroes. It was very, very sad. They went to Gold Beach to go and spread the gospel over there, because that was what God was calling them to do. And even though it's very sad, of course, they were doing God's work, so it was necessary. Anyways, so as Julie was being the director, somebody named Jason came to be an intern, and interns. David, what did interns do?
They did lots of things.
They did lots of things. Basically, they did Julie's job. Is what they did. It's quick. And so Jason came after Karis Monroe. After she had moved away, then Jason came in to be an intern. And Julie gave him his own desk space and all these things. But Julie would tease Jason because him and Marissa had huge crushes on each other. So Julie would tease Jason and Marissa about that. She would tease Jason about that. And so Jason became an intern. Now, remember how I told you that Julie would take these kids and she would take her kids to a cabin in Mount Hood every single year after summer? Well, this year, Julie decided, she had a very intellectual decision, she was going to take them on a hike, okay, to Multnomah Falls. Now, on this hike, they decided that they were going to, they went not on the normal path, of course, because who would? So they went on a mostly abnormal path, and it started to get dark. And it wasn't seem like it was a great idea to still be out there. So they came to a fork in the road. That fork in the road was one way, went to the road, and another way was much more filled with footsteps. So it had much more footprints. So do you guys think that Julie and her kids went to the direction of the road or the more like stomped on area?
Oh, they went to the road because Julie's smart.
That's really good. Yeah. So, Cameron, it might surprise you to hear, I know, that you're gonna have to come back next time to find out.
Who's good?
Okay. So, Julie took them on this hike, and they were trying to go back because they decided that they wanted to get back before dark, so nothing bad happened, right? So they started down the trail towards the road, and they soon realized that wasn't a great idea because all of a sudden, Jason, he vanished, okay? He was gone. And then the next second, they hear him scream, "Look out for the mudslide," okay? He had fallen down, and he was all alone. And so they decided, we're gonna go save Jason. So everyone, let's go down the mudslide, okay? Now that we have Jason, we're gonna try to help him up, okay? So they couldn't get Jason up, but they also couldn't get up themselves. So they were stuck, okay? So Julie, she decided that she was gonna call 911, you know, the logical thing to do. And she told Julie that they were gonna be okay and that they were gonna get rescued. So Julie was really happy about this. But it took quite a while, and they were stuck there for a long time. And then eventually, they even made it on the news. Even Jessica in Portland saw that they were stuck atop Multnomah Falls, okay? And so this was really cool for, you know, Jessica. She's like, what? They're on the news? That's really cool. And, you know, they might have been, you know, hanging on for dear life, basically, but that was still pretty cool for Jessica. So they waited and they waited, and eventually 2 men came with snacks and water, and they stayed with them the whole night. And this gave the CYers hope. And so they decided to do the logical thing, and they sang 5-Day Club songs all through the night. Yeah, Cameron. So this made Julie really happy, and she thought of an old hymn. It was Amazing Grace. There was this line in Amazing Grace that says, "I was lost, but now I'm found." Okay? And so this was really cool for Julie. And it was a great experience in the end, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good thing that, you know, Julie doesn't remember half this stuff, because we're probably messing up a lot of it. Yeah. So eventually they made it off, and that made Julie really happy, okay? You know, not be hanging on to the edge of her life, okay? So, eventually, Jason, he was spending his last year with the CYA group, and he was going to go to Multnomah University to study to become a pastor. So Julie, now she was sad, again, because she had to, you know, miss Jason. But soon after that, she became really happy because she got to go to a special wedding. Now guess whose wedding that is?
Jason and
Marissa. Jason and Marissa's.
Marissa's a redhead.
Yup. And so they got married, and Julie was really happy to go to this wedding because it brought back a bunch of really cool memories that she had with them. She remembers one time during the CYA weeks, they danced in her living room, and she knew that one day they would get married, and now they were. Another time, they said, "Julie, you relax, and we can make dinner for you." And so Jason, he had a really good idea, okay? He thought, well, you know, Julie won't mind if I make a spaghetti smoothie, right? Doesn't that sound good, boys and girls? That sounds really good, right? Yeah, I know, it's disgusting. Everyone go, ugh. so he made it anyway because, he's Jason. And he's a really cool guy. And so Julie, she came and saw what Jason had made. But the thing is, it wasn't in the blender. Jason forgot a really important part of, making a smoothie. He forgot the lid. And so everything was flying everywhere. And Julie comes in the kitchen and says, Jason, I'm very disappointed about it. He says, Jason, first of all, you're gonna clean this mess up, and I'm gonna cook from now on. Julie was really happy for Jason and Marissa because now that they were married, they could make spaghetti smoothies in their own kitchen with the lid on. But now that Jason was gone and she didn't have an intern, she also had to train a whole new group of CYers. And so we learned about pre-training previously, but there's another training called state training, and that's in the middle of summer. And so Julie was taking her CYA teens to state training, and she met a really cool person there. Her name was Martha, okay? Martha Owongo, right, David? Yeah, I did it. So she was from East Central Africa, okay? And she became really good friends with Julie throughout the week because every night when at the end of, all the trainings and all the teachings, they would go to bed and they would pray together. And they would tell stories about what was happening in their chapters. And so they got to know each other really well, and Julie really enjoyed that fellowship and friendship with her. And this reminded her of a time when she went to CEF International Conference. And she remembers there was a ton of people there, and she remembers that there were tons of Christians from all over the world, from a bunch of different countries, and they would worship together. And Julie thought of that, and she really, really liked that thought, because she thought, what if this is what heaven's like? What if this worship is going to be like heaven? She really enjoyed that. She really liked making friends, but she had to go back, and keep training her, hooligan CYAs. She had to go back to Mid-Columbia, and she had to teach us, and that was really hard. That was putting a strain on Julie. But not only that, because she had 24 different clubs going in the Mid-Columbia chapter, and she had 5 counties to cover. And a lot of the places that Julie covers aren't even supposed to be hers, so she's a really cool lady. And so, Julie had this prayer meeting, okay? And every Monday morning, Julie and a bunch of other ladies would get together and they would pray. And they would be things like praying for kids' safety and praying for them to get to know God better, the kids at Good News Club, and all that. But this one Monday morning, Julie, she had this request. And it was, I need help with the CEF in Mid-Columbia. So she thought, how about I ask, thanks Henry, how about I ask for prayer requests, and how about I ask for someone to help me? So she tells the ladies this, and they pray, and they are really expecting God to do something. Do you think something's gonna happen? Yeah. Something always happens, okay? But sadly, you're gonna have to come back. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, you're gonna have to come back. Aivie.
Okay, so the next day, Julie got a text from this man named Tony. And Tony, he was the CEF director for the state of Oregon. And he texted Julie and he was like, all right, we need to call at 10. And Julie's like, we need to call at 10? Okay, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? Okay, what's going on? And so Tony called Julie and he told her that they had the funding for her to be able to get a helper to help her with Good News Clubs and CYA and all the different stuff that needs to go on the CBF. And he even had a man in mind that could help her, and that man was Mark Dunnigan. And so Julie, she knew Mark Dunnigan, and she knew that he loved God, and that he also had a big heart for the kids. And so Tony and Julie, they went and they talked to Mark, and Mark agreed to come and help Julie reach out and do an outreach for Good News Clubs and for CY. And so he would go, he would travel to different churches, and he would tell what Good News Club was, what CEF was, and help get people interested in starting Good News Clubs and help Julie with just different things that needed to go on around. And so he went and he obviously, they were able to reach a lot more kids. When there was more people, right, they were able to reach more kids. And God had answered Julie's prayer really fast, right? He had helped him, he answered her prayers really quickly. And so together, like I said, they were able to go and they were able to reach many, many kids that year. And so things were going pretty good, right? Well, then in 2018, they had only had 3 CYAers that were teaching. And that's not very many considering that we have like over 20 right now. And so they only had 3 CYA teens that were teaching. And in 2019, as Julie was starting to recruit and trying to get people to come, nobody was accepting their requests, right? Nobody was coming. And Julie was worried. She was like, am I even going to have any teens to teach this year? Is there really even going to be anybody to be able to teach these 5-day clubs? And to make things more complicated, their treasurer, who was Jackie, she was going to be retiring at the end of the year. She wasn't going to be able to be the treasurer or the secretary. And so now they had to find a new treasurer and secretary. And Mark had also told her that he felt like God was calling him to go to Missouri to go and learn more about CEF and learn how to teach kids more. But he told her that he was willing to stay till the end of the summer. And so Julie, she was really worried, and she was like, all right, there's a lot of things going on right now. What are we going to do, right? But God, he has to have a plan through all of this, because God, he always has a plan, right? And so she knew that God had a plan. And so it worked out that Julie was able to talk, and she was able to talk to Liberty and get her to come and teach again. She had been teaching before, and she was able to talk her into coming and teaching again for another year. And Laura, also who had been teaching before and helped the previous year, she was able to talk into teaching again. And she was able to find 2 new teams, which were Evelyn and David. And so Julie was able to get these teams. And together with them and Mark Dunnigan, it was a pretty fun group. It was a pretty good pre-training, and it caused for a pretty good summer. Because Mark was very competitive. And the group that was also with him that summer was also very competitive. And they decided that anything Mark could do, they could do just a little bit better. And so there was some pretty intense slug bug fights. There was some pretty crazy Chinese fire drills. And there was even some ghost peppers even. So it was a pretty crazy summer. But they were able to reach so many kids. And even though Mark was going to be leaving at the end of the summer, they knew that they were able to reach many kids this year and that he was going to be able to go and reach even more, right? And Jackie, like I said, right, she was going to retire. But she was willing to find somebody to fill her spot. And so before she left, she found somebody to fill her place. And that was Lorna. Lorna became the new treasurer and secretary for the Mid-Columbia CEF office. And so now Julie, right, they had a treasurer and secretary, which was a big answer to prayer, right? They finally had somebody to come. And she also had a good group of teens. And so as 2020 came around, things were looking pretty good, right? It was going good, and she was getting ready for the next pre-training. She had teens, she was recruiting more teens, she was getting plans ready, right? And then everything shut down. There was nothing open, right? Stores closed, churches closed, schools closed down. And so all the Good News Clubs that were going on at that time also shut down. And so no kids were being able to be reached with the gospel because of COVID-19. And so Julie was worried, right? She's like, how are we going to reach these kids? We still need to tell kids about Jesus. But how are we going to reach these kids when everything is shut down? We can't interact with anybody, right? What are we going to do? What do you guys think that she's going to do? Pray. You guys know. Thank you so much, Aivie. Okay, yeah, you guys. So, Julie had already been multiple months into planning her pre-training, and all of a sudden, COVID hit, and everything shut down. Camp Mara was shut down, everything was shut down, and there was no way that we were going to be able to have pre-training. But Julie knew that God had a special plan, so she worked together, and she managed to plan pre-training both at her office and her house. And through that, then she was able to work with Mark Dunnigan. Even though he had gone away, he came back. And then Jessica Stinson and some of the other directors. And they all worked together and band together. And they were able to get state training to happen at Rowena Church. Now, they did this with the help of Judy Clark. Do you guys remember Judy? She was the director before. And they were able to work with her to get this plan. Now, this was in 2020. And there were only eight teams. There were only 8 teenagers that were there, 5 of which were Mid-Columbia.
And one from Astoria.
Yep. Now, even with all these troubles and everything shut down, Julie was able to work with different people, different churches, and people that were willing to open up their homes to have 5-day club. Now, because there was COVID, there had to be some new rules that were set up. Things such as split up and mask up. Can you guys all pretend to be sick with me? There was a lot of that going around that summer. But we were able, Julie was able to make it work anyway. She prayed a lot, and God opened many, many doors and many opportunities for her to spread the gospel. And then, because she had that time, she had put all that together, in 2021, she was able to spend lots of time. She knew what was coming, right? She knew things were shut down, and she was able to work together. And they were able to do pre-training at Camp Mara again. And then they were able to do state training in Horizon Christian School. Horizon opened up their doors so that they could have their hub, which was what it was called. It was a hub. They were able to open it up for there. Now, it had grown a little bit. We had grown from having 5 Mid-Columbia members to 11 in 1 year. How crazy is that? Julie had prayed, and she knew that God would bring the CYAers, and sure enough, they had. And so they went through that year, and Julie realized, though, that through this time, that her time as CEF director for Mid-Columbia was starting to come to a close. Now, she wasn't done yet, though, because in 2022, everything started opening up. We were able to have retraining as normal again, and state happened in Aldersgate, as it usually had in Turner. Now, that was an interesting year, because when they had been in Turner, everything had gone fine. Julie had gotten a bus from Grass Valley, or Grass Valley Church, and they were all the way there. Everything was perfect getting here. There were so many kids that were reaching the gospel. But on the way back, everyone had gotten in the car, everyone was wet from 5-day club because it was water day, and everyone was tired, and all the luggage was in there. They were driving on the interstate, and all of a sudden, as the CYAers put it, they started thinking Julie was driving like a mad woman. I mean, and they stopped on the side of the interstate. Sure enough, Julie wasn't driving like a mad woman like she usually does. Her right axle had broken, so the bus would not work. And right afterwards, a few minutes afterwards, there were cop cars that came, and there were cones that were put up. And the problem was, it was a really, really hot summer day. And the other problem is that there was a lot of CYAers that had a lot of pollen allergies. So, sure enough, while we were sitting there was a bunch of CYAers that were sitting there, and they were sneezing, and their eyes were all puffy and red. It was terrible. But with God's help, Julie was able to call some people, and she was able to get some towing trucks to come and help get the bus to a safe place at a Les Schwab nearby. Problem is, she had now, 13 CYAers that, where were they supposed to go? They were on the side of the interstate. They had been sitting there, they had been singing songs, singing 5 Day Club songs, trying to do anything to keep themselves busy, but where were they supposed to go? So, by the grace of God, the person that had come to pick up the bus had a wife, and he called his wife, who had a 15-passenger bus. Or van, yeah.
My van.
Oh, and they came, and they picked up all the CYAers, and they were all able to go to the Les Schwab safely, where parents came, and they picked up all the CYAers, and David came, and Julie was able to take the rest of the CYAers home.
No, they're having seatbelts, so.
No. Yes. Now, over these last few years, God had really, really blessed Julie. Julie's area had grown. They had 5 people to 11 to 13 to 15, and then 22. And through that process, there had been a girl named Anna, who was Julie's granddaughter. She lived all the way in Arizona. You guys want to point all the way really far away? She was really, really far away, all the way in Arizona. Because Anna started going, she opened the door so that other people from Arizona could also come, or Julie's grandchildren and distant relatives. Yeah. So through this, as this time had come, Lorna had decided that she was going to move away. But before she moved away, she knew that she had to fill her position as secretary. So she found a woman named Laurel who would fill that spot. Now, little did Julie know, Laurel was really the person that was able to fill Julie's spot. Because remember, as I said before, Julie had known that God was starting to move her out of CYA. Now, Laurel introduced her to a man named John Panero. And John Panero, she had been a children's pastor for over 20 years. And Julie knew that this man was on fire for God and that he would be the perfect fit. So she kept praying, and over time, he decided that he would come to pre-training. So he came to pre-training, and he was like, oh my goodness, this is so cool. You guys are so awesome. So he decided to stay for the summer as well. He stayed and he went to state training, and then he helped over the summer where, you guys remember when Julie was younger, when she started filling that position as director, and Julie helped her? Well, John did the same thing. Julie helped to mentor John, and John was kind of sort of an intern in a way. And he started taking over more and more of Julie's jobs over the years. Now, Julie knew that she was going to retire in the end of 2024. And one of the last big events that she had was a Christmas party that she held. Where while she was there, she gave all of her CYAers a devotional with a personal note in it, because that is how much she loved them. And through that, as she had done that, the CYAers had realized how much they were going to miss Julie. So between them and some of the other people around, they decided to gang up and have a huge retirement party for Julie. So sure enough, over time as they planned this event, they had tons of people all over Oregon come so that they could celebrate Julie and her life and her story. And they even brought her a special gift, her most wanted puppy ever.
You know, the brat. See,
So Julie has wanted a corgi for as long as any of us can remember. In order for us to put together this missionary story for Julie, we did some stalking, and some of her earliest Facebook posts include corgis, but she's never had one. And so we wanted to honor her, and we wanted to get her multiple gifts, and this is definitely the highlight. Julie, we just want you to know we love you so much. And
you're all my
I'm including that, just so you know. And then another thing is we had this poster out here, And this is a very special poster because it wasn't just anybody who did the artwork. We wanted to do something very special, and so what we did is we contacted CEF headquarters, and we had their primary illustrator make this for you. And so everyone who signed it, everyone who's here today, and all of us at CEF want to give that to you, just to honor you, so that you can remember this event, this night, and that's the story behind that. It corresponds with the story behind the 5-Day Club visuals. The 5-Day Club visuals and lesson text that can be used to teach. It's a missions text, but it can be used to teach at 5-Day Clubs or Good News Club. So that is for you.
What a blessing, Julie. You are amazing. Before I get to closing, designated cry monitor. Does she cry at all? No. Okay. Is there anybody in this room that she made you cry tonight? Raise your hand. All over the room. So, looking at this gambling event that we had here tonight, nobody saw her cry, so therefore she didn't cry. However, I noticed that there was one area that nobody signed up for except for me. She made others cry. I win! Sorry, guys. What'd you say, Cameron? I couldn't hear you. Okay. Hey guys, thanks for coming tonight. It has been a privilege, a pleasure working with Julie. I know that she's not done. She won't quit, but she's quitting. I don't get that, but one housekeeping thing before I close. All of your things that are on your table, there's a garbage can right outside those double doors right there. If you would, as you leave, please throw it away as you go out the door. That'll help us clean up. Not the table, just